Hey guys, Marslingan here, bringing you another Dragon Ball Z Dokkan battle video, and so today we are going to do the team building guide for the new stage of Super Battle Road that is going to come out on Global tomorrow. I'm not sure exactly what time this video will go up, but the stage is going to be out basically at reset in the morning. Well, morning for me, 6:30 AM. Late evening depending on where you are in the US. Level 64 Giant Ape Power. So this one, Giant Ape Power doesn't exactly have the biggest roster. So usually with my team building guides I go over all of the top picks and honorable mentions, but realistically for this one it is probably just going to be more the top picks, right? Because the category itself is not very large. And if I went through honourable mentions as well, like realistically there's probably only a few units on here that would be completely useless, because even some of these older units, like, I mean, I'm not going to talk about them, so I guess we could briefly address them now. These older units like the Bardock Grey Ape Squad that don't have their Easy A's yet, they're obviously quite bad in terms of their viability for current content. However, when it comes to the Giant Ape Power, like any Giant Ape characters, if you get good RNG and get a lot of Giant Ape transformations, then potentially having some of those weaker units on the team could still get you through. So we are going to focus a little bit more just on the top picks for this stage, and of course we will have a section for the heroes units, of course. So we're going to go through these as always with my team building guides. If there's any units you think I should have talked about in more detail, or that I just missed out completely that you think would be useful, make sure to mention them down below in the comment section. And if you do find the guide helpful, do hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you are new. So one thing to bear in mind, because this will come in I guess it's only really relevant for like one unit that we're going to talk about. All of the enemies that you fight in the stage are all super class, and they're all hybrid Saiyans, although I don't think that matters to anyone at all, but something to keep in mind, I suppose. So straight away we'll start off with the Int Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta. He has a Giant Ape Power, 3 key and 170 lead. This guy's starting to age out a little bit, but in terms of Super Battle Road, like, obviously he has decent defense after he super attacks, but the fact that he has the 50% chance to counter supers is obviously still very, very useful. And he's a unit that is, you know, at his full power for the first 8 turns, right? He gets extra attack and defense and is effective against all types. So a Super Battle Road fight is never going to last for 8 turns. You'll probably be... If your team is weak enough that you don't kill the 2 enemies in 8 turns, you probably are dead before you get to turn 8. So Int Gogeta still can be pretty useful. Obviously if he doesn't counter a super, he's going to take a lot of damage from it, but just having that like ability in his pocket is definitely very, very useful. He has an active skill. He has to be attacked 4 or more times. So I mean, in theory you could get that scenario on turn 1 where he gets attacked 4 times, and then on turn 3 you could use his active skill. And the fact that normally his active skill is really only being used as a buff for himself, but it does debuff the enemy's attack and defense, which obviously in Super Battle Road is still a very viable ability. So his active skill certainly can be useful, but him getting hit 4 times is not something that's necessarily going to happen before the fight is over. So next up in terms of leads, we have the LR Giant Ape Vegeta that came out part 2 of the 7th anniversary. He has a Giant Ape Power leader skill for 4 key and 150 to stats, so slightly lower stats but 1 extra key. His 12 key is an AoE super, which obviously very good for Super Battle Road. Now if you're an enemy whose name includes Goku, but Youth and Junior are excluded, so he's not going to get his active skill, his entrance animation at any point during this, which basically just gives him extra key and extra attack. So he does guard, and then he gets extra key and extra attack when his guard is activated. So if he gets hit in slot 1, he gets 3 extra key and 30% attack, which definitely can be very useful when you're then firing off that AoE super attack. However, he does get quite a lot of extra defense on super. So this unit has always been a bit weird, where he gets benefits from being hit first, but in terms of his defense, he only gets his full effectiveness when he's already super attacked. So if you're going to use this guy on the team, you very much can use him in slot 1, especially if you throw up a defensive item to cover his like defensive shortcomings, then he can actually be very, very good in slot 1. And remember, one common factor across a lot of these units, although funnily enough not the old Super Saiyan 4 Gogeas, is that they all have Saiyan Raw. So even though they might not share a ton of links, Saiyan Raw is a very, very good link, especially if you have it at level 10. It is 25% attack and 10% defense. Obviously, very, very effective. He can turn into a giant ape with his active skill. HP is 40% or less. No turn restriction. So if you're going into the second or third fight at 40% or less HP, you can just use his active skill straight away. And he is one of those giant apes that does get a little bit of help. He gets 5 extra key in his passive. So even in the worst case scenario, you're going to be able to 12 key super with him every single time. And then if you can get the 18 key super, then obviously he does more damage. Next up, we have the Limit Breaker Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta from the Heroes Celebration. Obviously, if you pulled some Heroes units, but you can't make like a full Heroes team for this, he does still have a giant 8 power leader skill of 3 key and 170, so equal to the Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta. And then if you do have any characters that are Dragon Ball Heroes, they get the extra 30%, and obviously that includes himself as well. So this Vegeta is pretty good. He gets a guaranteed additional super attack as well as his full defense when all allies in the same turn are Giant 8 Power or Dragon Ball Heroes. Obviously on this team they are all going to be Giant 8 Power, so he's still getting those buffs, which is good. He also gives superclass allies and himself 40% extra attack when there's an ally whose name includes Goku in the same turn. So if you are using a Goku, or even units, you know, again, whose name includes Goku, because there's one of those that we'll talk about, he's going to be able to get that attack support, which is very, very useful. And then he gets attacks guaranteed to hit, which in Super Battle Road is pointless. Disables enemies' guard, good for attacking STR enemies from the turn in which he performs the 5th super. Even if you get lucky with the hidden potential additional, that means you're only going to be able to do this from like the 6th super. So if he triple supers in turn 1 and then triple supers on his next turn, you'll see the effect on that 3rd super, but otherwise it's not going to be until turn 5 at the earliest, which, as we've already said, like Super Battle Road fights could well be over by then. But definitely a good stand-in lead, because the full 170, and then if you are using Heroes characters, they get the extra buff, so definitely worthwhile considering. The Vegeta works much better with Giant 8 Power units than the Goku, who obviously has full power or Dragon Ball Heroes as his restriction. So even if you're not running a lot of, or even any other Heroes units, this guy can still be a really good leader for the team. So next up we have Super Saiyan 4 Gohan, so another Heroes unit. The reason I've included him so early is he has a Giant 8 Power leader skill as well, 3 key and 150, so still a reasonable level leader skill for being able to take on this stage. And then if you're not using him as a leader, he's like a must-run support unit, must-run defensive unit anyway, right? Because he reduces damage received by 50% when there are 2 or more other Giant 8 Power allies, which of course in this instance it's going to be the whole team. He does get extra defense on super, and he has a chance to stun. It's only for the duration of that turn, but that is still very, very good. And then he gets extra attack when there's another crossover ally. Even if you don't have any other Heroes units or any other crossover units, this guy's still going to be very good on the team, right? Because he gets his damage reduction with Giant 8 Power allies, which is his main role, and he has a chance to stun for the turn. So you put him in slot 1, potentially stun an enemy, and then they can't do anything for the rest of that turn, which is obviously very beneficial. So leader skill or not, you're going to want to use this guy on the team if you have him. So next up we have this Gohan. I thought I'd mention him as kind of like a last resort leader, because he's an all types 3 key and 120 lead. He can stun, medium chance to stun on his 12 key super. He's not really going to be on the team to do a lot of damage, so I think prioritizing his 12 key super and going for the stuns is potentially a good idea. And then of course the only real reason I would say he's going to be worth using, or at least effective to use outside of his leader skill, is he has 58% damage reduction when there's an ally whose name includes Goku in the same turn. So obviously any units whose name includes Goku, and there are a few of them on this team, he will get his damage reduction. Without his damage reduction, I feel like he's not worth running at all, unless you literally have to run him because you have no other leaders. So I would bear that in mind. So next up, talking about some other units we can bring along, we have the Anniversary LR Super Saiyan 4s. Now, you can use them as a leader, right? Fused Fighters or GT Heroes. So you can't use any of the Heroes units on their leader skill, apart from Super Saiyan 4 Vegito. So this is obviously going to be a very different team build. But you can bring these guys as a leader. Any units that have Kamehameha are getting the full 200%. So they certainly can be a very effective leader. They guard on turn 1, which is of course very useful for Super Battle Road. Getting enough key means they get a guaranteed additional super. Getting the full 24 key means they're effective against all types. So they definitely can be very, very strong. They also get extra crit chance with rainbow orbs. Like, this unit is just very, very good, right, on the team. There's almost no reason not to run them, even if you're not running them as the leader, right? There's, like, almost no reason not to run these guys on the team. Very, very good. And then you can fuse on turn 4, which, you know, you can get to turn 4 in a Super Battle Road fight. And then once you do transform into Gogeta, if there's only one enemy left who has 50% or less HP, which is again very likely at this point in the fight, you could then use their active skill straight away, which is pretty good. Big damage, all crits, and then of course the LR Super Saiyan 4s, much like the gods, when they're doing their super attacks, they get tons of defense from their super attack effects, and they action break with their 18 key super as well. So very, very good. Then we have the Super Saiyan 4 Goku and Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta. Don't really need to say a huge amount about them. Obviously, you're mainly going to be running these guys, like, if you're running them as the leader, because they fit under their leader skill. They can counter supers. They have a turn 4 active skill that does some free damage. So these guys, they've aged a bit in terms of, like, the really hard red zone stages, but for Super Battle Road, I think they still can be very good. Still have a 30% chance to counter supers as well, so definitely very useful. Then we have full power Super Saiyan 4 Goku that got his EZA the end of last year. Very good unit, very strong, good defense after supering. You can see he has the Scouter effect if there's a full power ally in the same turn and HP is 59% or below. Not very common, but, you know, can still be useful. He also has a 30% chance to counter supers, fits under the LR Super Saiyan 4's leader skill, so another very, very good unit. Then we have the old school Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, the tech one. He has a 70% chance to counter supers. So with his EZA now, he probably is the better option to run over the Int one. He's just, the Int one's better for a leader for this team, because this guy only has fusion. So the LR Super Saiyan 4s are on there, but then it's like, I think that's basically it, right, for Giant 8 power. So, because Vegito, Super Saiyan 4 Vegito's not on there, because he's Potara, because this was obviously before the days of the fused fighter category. So, this guy very good on the team, especially with the 70% counter chance, but not great for a leader. Then we have some more heroes units. So we have Goku, the Limit Breaker Super Saiyan 4 Goku. You could use him as a leader if you're just going to run heroes, because his leader skill is crossover or full power. Although technically, like, the tech full power Super Saiyan 4 Goku still fits under this as well. So I guess you could use him as a leader. He needs a full power or heroes rotation, though, to get his damage reduction, which is one of his better abilities. So depending on your team build, unless you are running full heroes, then, you know, if you're running, like, other Giant 8 power units, because, say, you're using Limit Breaker Vegeta as the leader, remember that Goku's not going to get his damage reduction if there's not a full power or heroes rotation. And then he's buffing everyone for defense when there's an ally whose name includes Vegeta, and then once he receives 7 attacks, he gets his full buff, which is unlikely to happen in a Super Battle Road stage, but he still can be very good. Super Saiyan 4 Bardock, he has built-in chance to dodge, he gets crits and effective against all types if you start the turn at high enough HP. He does need another 2 or more crossover allies to get his full buff. So realistically, you're only going to run him if you are running a couple of the other heroes units. But he can still be very good. He seals as well, which is of course an ability that's still very useful in Super Battle Road. So Super Saiyan 4 Bardock still very good. Then we have Super Saiyan 4 Vegito. We mentioned him briefly. He's the only one, like I said, that fits on the LR Super Saiyan 4's leader skill because he is a fused fighter. He's providing support to crossover and Giant 8 power. So even if you aren't running any other crossover units, he's still providing support to Giant 8 power. He has a 50% chance to counter supers. He's aged a little bit in terms of his like defense in the current meta, so especially if you're going for like a no item run, for example, even after supering, he could potentially still take damage from normal attacks, but the 50% chance to counter supers and the support definitely does make him a good asset to the team. And if you are running a largely heroes or crossover build, then obviously he's going to be a very solid option. Now we have the Cumber that got his Easy A during the most recent Heroes celebration. This guy, if RNG is on your side, this guy can be an absolute god in Super Battle Road because he has a high chance of stunning superclass enemies after receiving an attack. So if you get good RNG and the first attack that he's taking in slot 1 is just a normal attack, and then he gets the stun, then that's it, and you don't take any damage for the whole of the turn. So very, very effective if RNG is on your side. If not, obviously he could take a bit of a beating, especially if you are using him in slot 1. But for people who don't care about no item runs, like you can literally just put this guy in turn 1, pop a Whis, and then if he stuns on the first attack, you don't have to worry about the rest of the turn. But then the Whis is still up for the next turn as well. And then that's going to give you a very good footing. After those first 2 turns, you're already going to have done a ton of damage to the enemy, whilst not really having taken much damage yourself. So he definitely can be very good. And obviously another unit, even though he's not a Super Saiyan 4, he has Saiyan Raw, he has Prepared for Battle, Super Saiyan, so he still fits in well with the Super Saiyan 4 units, so he's very good. Then we have the 3, I thought I'd mention these guys, the 3 Great Apes that were originally Global First Easy A's. I remember these guys were pretty much the main reason why when Giant Form Extreme Super Battle Road came out on Global, I was able to no item it on the first day when Truth still hadn't done it on JP, because these guys didn't have their Easy A and the category was in a much worse position then than it is now, right? Like there was no LR Great Ape Vegeta. So these guys definitely very good after supering, because they all raise defense on super. Raditz is greatly raised and is a nuker. Like these guys after supering can be very, very solid defensively. And then of course they all have giant ape transformations as well, because we've talked about a lot of characters on this category that don't have giant ape transformations, and those obviously can be very, very useful. So I think, does Goku? No, Goku doesn't stun. Is it Raditz that can stun? Oh wait, they can stun in their Great Ape state as well, which is really useful, because if you get that on the last turn of the transformation, then obviously they are still stunned during the next turn afterwards, which is pretty useful, so bear that in mind. So Giant 8 power, Super Saiyan 4 Broly is probably the only Heroes unit that I think is maybe a little bit too outdated, but I mean, you could probably get away with using him if he doesn't have to take too many attacks. Baby's a little bit outdated now, but he does lower attack on both of his supers, which is pretty good. We already talked about kind of the Team Bardock units, how they're a bit outdated now. The TUR Easy A, Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta and Super Saiyan 4 Goku, I guess you could still use them if you're running the like GT Heroes build. You also have the GT Super Saiyan Vegeta and Super Saiyan Goku. They are technically on this category because they go Great Ape and Super Saiyan 4 in their active skill, so they can be pretty useful if you're running that GT Heroes build. Otherwise I probably wouldn't use them on the team. But then as you can see, that's kind of it, right? The category is very small. There's only really a few units on here like Team Bardock, these unawakened Team Bardock Great Apes like Wrathful Broly, a bit too old now. Great Ape Turles doesn't have his Easy A yet, but he can stun, so as a last resort he could be useful, but he definitely is going to take a lot of damage when he gets hit. So that is the Giant 8 power category. Like I say, not a huge amount of options, but I've tried to go over the reasons why some of these better units are good to use. So let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. Like I said at the beginning, if there's any units that I missed out or you think I should have talked more about, let me know in the comments, and let me know what your team build is going to look like for this stage. Obviously, I'm going to continue the tradition and try and get the no item run with a full Heroes team. I might even stream actually, because when the stage comes out, like I say, it's early in the morning for me, but I'll probably be up, so I might actually be live to stream it. So keep an eye out on the channel, subscribe, hit that bell so you know if I am going live, and potentially I will see you guys at the stream. So let me know what team you're going to use down below. So that is going to be it for the video, guys. This has been the Masked Ningen. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Check out the links down below for the Discord and the merch store, and I will see you all again soon. Have a good one.